It's the Rangers Journal night.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Rangers Journal podcast. I'm your host for tonight, Scott Mackay, and we're here to introduce Stuart's back and Dean. Dean's a bit of a diehard on the pods just now. I must need to say. So tonight we're going to sort of discuss the ingredients needed for to be a Rangers captain. Discuss the role in a wee bit of depth. We've all each picked our own favourite captains for previous regimes. We'll chat a bit about them, and then we'll speak about James Tavernier and his future at the club and the kind of role he's got under Clement now that he's in charge. So, Stu, how you doing, mate?
Hello, I'm good. Tired, getting geared up for a birthday weekend, so this will be the last minute of the weekend I remember, probably. It's only Thursday, so here we go.
Dean, how you doing, pal?
I'm very well, thank you, mate. Looking forward to this pod tonight. How are you doing, buddy?
I am all right.
Good.
I'm absolutely fine. So, Stu, I'll come to you first. What does the role of captain of Rangers mean to you? Like, see, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when that question gets asked?
Somebody who's an absolute battler, solid, runs the team for the captain on the pitch. It's the voice of runs the team for the manager on the pitch. He's the voice of the manager on the pitch. You should convey that. Keeps everybody in check. Somebody's not doing something, he's on them. Sometimes just to drag the team by the scruff of the neck if things aren't going the right way. Somebody who's an example of a player, see if the captain's not in the team, it should hurt us. Also the kind of old school Rangers ethics, morals. I remember, what was it back in the day, there was a thing, if Rangers get beat, Walter Smith sent Richard Gough out to do the post-match kind of negative interview because he's accountable on the pitch. I told you to do a job and you didn't do it, so you can face it up. It seems to be a kind of standard that's been forgotten in the modern era because every time we get beat, you don't see Tav for love or money. But yeah, somebody who's just a kind of shining example about how Rangers play. He's the manager's man on the pitch, and basically somebody who sets the standards for the rest of the players.
I need to agree with all that. There's not really much I can disagree with, to be honest with you. Dean, sort of same question to you. Have you you want to add to that? Or?
Just echo what Stu said there, but for me, it's the one that that that's going to drag the team up when they're needing dragged up. They're needing that inspiration. They're needing that motivation, because sometimes that can happen, and the captain takes on that burden to then show the players, we can do this. To turn and look at the captain for that belief, for that sort of extra needing that extra yard in them. And to me, that's what a Rangers captain symbolises, is that the person who will give the most. So every player has to reach those standards, as Stu just said.
I need to agree, and I think it's something that's purely missing on the park is that good old-fashioned kind of backbone in a team where you've got players that are going to set an example and lead from the front, and I really don't think we've got anything like that just now. Stu, see on. We'll jump right on to James Tavernier really quickly. What kind of effect do you think he has on a team? What type of captain do you think he is?
I don't. And this has got nothing to do with his playing ability and all the kind of accolades that he's garnered in his time at the club. But if you talk about just in terms of a captain, I don't think he's any sort of captain. See if James Tavernier was trying to pull you up. You're not going to break it, are you? Well, shut up, Tav. Fucking see when language. See if you and you start defending, you can try and chin me about my performance. See all the goals that get shipped over the top of you. You hang Goldson out the back all the time. You're going to try and chin me for her straight pass? No chance, man. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. Tav, I can't even talk today. Tav will struggle to be a captain because Tav doesn't do his job properly, so he can't demand the same of anybody else. So I don't know how we got the gig. I really don't, right? But for me, he's not any sort of captain because I don't think, I know everybody pays him all respects and Goldson and other players, Arfield, for example. Now, he's probably more of a Rangers captain than Tav would have been. He played at the club at the same time, right? They all say you won't know what you've got in James Tavernier till he's gone. That may be the case, but I still don't think he's any sort of captain. I don't really see him as an authority thing just because people have respect for him as a player. I don't think he's any sort of captain. I don't think MD's going to jump when he says do that. Do you know what I mean? That was very, very poorly worded by me there, but I don't think he's any sort of captain.
I get where you're coming from. I completely get where you're coming from. I think there's moments where you think like a Europa League run and he's scoring the winner against Dortmund, and the game against Kilmarnock in February, he whips in a free kick into back of the net and we go on to win a match, and then you think, right, this team's really going to kick on and win a league, and then the leadership group collapses and the whole team collapses.
Strangely though, given that I've said that he's no sort of captain, he's managed to hang on to that armband for post Second World War. Since Richard Gough, he's the longest serving Rangers captain at 5 years and 327 days.
That's depressing, by the way. That's actually depressing.
By the way, I think it's longer than that, because I'm sure he got the captaincy under Pedro, did he know?
No, it was Gerrard.
Gerrard.
He was captain.
It was.
He was
right.
captain before Gerrard came in, and Gerrard came in 2018, so that's 6 years ago.
Yep, so James Tavernier. So me and my research associate, Wikipedia, were talking about this today. And James Tavernier gained the Rangers captaincy on the 6th of July 2018.
That's fair enough. I think what you're referring to is when Pedro was there, he gave, I think his captaincy get passed around everybody, to be honest. I think Bruno Alves had it at one point under Pedro.
I just thought that Tav was the captain before Gerrard came in, because there was all that talk about him remaining captain. Is he going to keep him captain?
Well, you're probably right. I think he got appointed officially club captain in that summer though when Gerrard came in. Dean, I'm going to come to you. Obviously, I don't think there's much a comparison between Barry Ferguson and Tav when it comes to captaincies, right? So, but Doug's obviously in the chat, and he's saying that Ferguson, is it not that he had better players around him?
I'm sorry. There's one glaring difference to me. Ferguson hated them. I didn't get the impression that Tav wants to be their mates. If I'm being quite honest with you, if you gave Tav the option of being mates with him on the park, he probably would take you up on that. Ferguson hated them, so that made everybody else hate them. Like, we need to get that back in our team. Those standards. We need to hate Celtic. Simple. They hate us. We need to hate them equally back. And we've been bullied far too long. And I mean, I come into it was the last Old Firm game, but they were shaking hands or being nice to them, and you're like, no, get that shite in the bin. Excuse my language, but to me, and that comes for the captain, and that comes down. So Ferguson hated them. So I think Ferguson maybe had better players round about him. That's all. That's highly subjective. You've got to think about it. He had.
But to your point as well, Dean, we're not talking about these guys in a playing capacity, whatever accolades. See, Dougie's there saying he's dragged us to a European final, won us a cup this season. Might have done. We're not talking about how he plays. We're talking about him in his role as captain. Do you know what I mean? So for him, there was no more stats about he did this, he did that. I'm sure he did that. Nobody's disputing that. We're talking about his ability to captain the club. And you're exactly right. He's coming from a totally different mindset compared to Ferguson. He grew up the kind of west coast of Scotland, is steeped in Rangers tradition. His brother played for the club. As a wee boy, he hung about with the 9 in a row team. I mean, it's drilled in him. He lives and breathes it, bleeds it. Whereas Tav came up, failed at Newcastle Youth, a couple of games in the Newcastle's first teams and friendlies. Wigan didn't want him. He came up here and, well, the captain of Rangers.
I know where he's coming from, but I think we need to put a wee bit of context into what Tav's actually done for a club. He's been our top scorer for God knows how many seasons now. It doesn't matter. Aye, but to me,
he's a top goal scorer, but he's not sort of captain though. That's what we're talking. But being a good captain doesn't say you're not a good player.
But it leads by example by scoring goals and getting your points. And I've got to agree with what Dougie in the comments has says in terms of he dragged us to that European Cup final, at Europa League final, with his goal contributions. I do think he's got the influence. It might not be the influence that I want at the club, but I do think he's had his good moments too.
Does he lead by example though? If he's continually like erring in the same positions, the same scenarios over and over, he's done nothing to improve that. Constantly getting the ball over the top of him, constantly being posted missing when we're getting countered. So is that leading by example? The fact you can make the same mistakes every day and never get dropped.
I know where you're coming from, but who else is there at right back that we're going to play apart from Sterling? Sterling stepped in as CEO. And then, do you know what I mean?
But that's been one of our probably, if people saying who is that to come in? It's our own fault that we've got ourselves in that position in the first place. Who is that to come in? People keep saying that, what are we going to do when he leaves, the goals he scores, this and the next. Well, we sign different players, we play different tactics that we're no heavily reliant on a right back being our top scorer in the run to a European final. And again, I'll reiterate a point of what we said. We may have got to the final, but we still got beat. It doesn't matter, but we lost. Do you know? So that's where I'm at with that.
But what I'm trying to say is everything that's happened to Rangers recently isn't just down to James Hotham on these captaincies. There's a lot of stuff going on with the team and the club. Anyway, we'll move on.
Definitely. I mean, good player. He's been a great servant. He's great accolades. You couldn't replace the numbers over the years. I'm just saying for being a captain. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't drop him. I wouldn't get rid of him over this time. Obviously, it looks like he might go now, and there's things that frustrates you. And maybe some of the mistakes he makes and frustrations he causes would be less amplified if he wasn't the captain. Do you know what I mean?
Aye. I know what you mean. Dean, I'll come to you first. I'll put the slides up. Come to you first. So this is your three favourite captains at Rangers. Why did you pick all three? Start with Ferguson.
So when Ferguson got the captaincy, it was from Amoruso, and Amoruso was off the back of a treble and a double. So it was big shoes to fill. Amoruso was going through bad form. It was the right thing to do at the time. Was that Amoruso ended up playing better. Ferguson completely took it in his stride. And as Stu said, he was, everything you could think about Rangers, Ferguson was. And again, I'll go and reiterate the point I made earlier on. When it came to Celtic, you knew that it was going to be a battle. You knew it was going to be a battle in the middle of the park. Even the times when Celtic did beat us and he was in the, Ferguson left nothing on the park. And he was even, the players round about him, he was, keeping them in line and things like that. And he ended up being obviously successful himself, winning, captaining us to the treble and things like that. That is obviously
club and country.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. So it was just everything that a Rangers captain should be, as Barry Ferguson, from top to bottom, in my opinion. And the team was built around Ferguson. Dick Advocat built that team around Ferguson when he was 20. Do you know what I mean? So that kind of speaks volumes that he was probably good enough to be captain then, but it was Amoruso, and Amoruso, as I said, treble winning captain. So, and Davy Weir for me, coming into the club when we were miles behind them, Paul Le Guen had totally destroyed us. Davy Weir comes in as a 6-month loan to steady the ship, and the man was that good at 35. Walter Smith wanted him for the next 5 years. Do you know what I mean? And rightly became captain. And if you think about it, when he came in, so before he even got the captaincy, he was the one that was like the pillar of assurance. He was so assured. He was so calm on the ball. Like, he just had this aura about him on the pitch that the whole team got a lift. The whole team got a lift when he was playing. His organisation, defensively, and for the whole team. And when we were up against it in Europe, it was like Davy Weir and I'm going to say Carlos Queller, McGregor and Alexander, those tripods, and a lot of that is obviously down to Davy Weir. Carlos Queller said he's probably the most inspirational. I can't mind verbatimly what Carlos Queller said, but I remember reading it years ago and said the most inspirational player that he's ever played with, and talked about how he was as a man on and off the ball, the standards that he set for himself and for his teammates, and everybody adhered to it. And then we've got Richard Gough. Well, what was there to say? 9 in a row winning captain. I mean, you close your eyes, you think you're Richard Gough, and every single picture I see in my head, he's got a bandage around his head. Like that man would would take a sledgehammer to the coupon and get up and fight. And a lot of the 9 in a row years, but maybe when they said that maybe we had better players and stuff at us and things like that, but he was the one that was grinding out the results that were, the 1-0, the really boring crap games. He was the one that was in the centre of it, and obviously the goals he scored to help us win 9 in a row and things like that. It's just, he was an absolute animal, wasn't he? Gough, absolute fighter. Just again, another one that left absolutely nothing on the pitch and some. And that was instilled in people like John Brown, Alan McLaren, at the back. They both said that he was just an absolute warrior and everything that, that Walter Smith wanted and needed in a captain. And it just so happens that all three of them are, captains of treble winning sides, aren't they? So that as well is something that for me is important for a Rangers captain to be a winner. Every single one of them are winners. And it's been, 20 years or something since we've last won a treble. And, we've maybe been starved of having a captain like that. And that could well be one of the main reasons for me. And I know people say, football's changed and, players don't like being shouted at and whatnot and stuff. And I guess I might be a bit of a Rangers star when I say this, but I think that is badly missed. Like, these guys were not scared to throw their teammates under the bus when they made the mistake. They would call them out, "You're shite, get it sorted." Do you know? So, and I don't think that some of that language or some of that approach would be, it would be beneficial in my opinion.
See, just breaking the two centre halves down, right, when they were captains, Gough and Weir, I would say, maybe had a similar influence on and off the pitch. I don't know if any disagree with that, but I think their mannerisms, their conduct was very similar to like Stephen Davis when he was Rangers captain. Kind of led by example, gave somebody
men of the quorum, gentlemen.
Aye, exactly.
Yeah.
Gave somebody a rollicking when it was needed.
Yeah.
And then you had wee Barry, who completely came, and at the time he took the role of captain and he ripped up the kind of what a captain was supposed to be, and he put his own stamp on it. It was harrying players they wanted to win in training. He was wanting to win constantly. That's all Barry wanted to do. Dean, what type of captain do you prefer? Do you prefer the Davy Weir, Richard Gough type, or do you prefer a Barry Ferguson type?
Barry Ferguson type.
Barry Ferguson type. Stu, what about you?
Well, I don't think it's as black and white in that. I think everybody goes Barry Ferguson. The guy's going to rollick everybody. Now, these two, I said a minute ago, gentlemen, men of decorum and all that, how to conduct themselves and present themselves. But if it wasn't going well, don't get us wrong, they still shouted at people in the dressing room. And I think one time you see Davy Weir grabbing Gary Caldwell by the throat during an Old Firm game, right? So they do have they're still fiery guys, but they had a real issue and it was going to come to they're getting rollicked. Do it in the changing room, closed door. And then that happens, do you know what I mean? It wasn't just, oh, guys blazing all the time, all fire and brimstone. their professional code of conduct, but those kind of fiery, sort it out, don't do that again, probably a bit of industrial language. That they still did that, but it was in the correct way, behind closed doors. What goes on, what's said between the team stays in there, and you've seen them talk about that as well. So I think it's a good blend. Do you know what I mean? Of that kind of fire and professionalism.
Mm-hmm.
Like Barry Ferguson, and I wouldn't have changed him. I loved him as a captain, but he was just all fire. But that delivered results for the team as well in terms of a captain's performance, a captain's role outside of his playing ability.
Yeah,
Aye, definitely. Stu, we're going to move on to yours now, and I've got to admit, I nearly spat my juice out when you gave me these three guys' names today. Gavin Ray, Kenny Miller, and Carlos Walker.
Marking me off here. Seriously,
no.
you said that. I knew I was getting banned up there. No, mate. Oh, dear. Captain America, man. Oh, God. Christ, man. Did you know that Captain America was captain for Rangers for a whole of... Was it... Hold on. Me and Wiki sorted this out earlier. 33 days, 7 games.
I think Gavin Ray was captain for about a fortnight. Kenny Miller never even had it. I was just googling funny Rangers captains before I come on, and I was like, yes.
You know what?
Perfect.
I know you're making a joke. And I'd maybe kind of half thought about bringing this up, but since you've put his face on this, right? Now, I know he did the unthinkable, right? But see, on balance, when you look at it on the whole, he must so regret that, because played for the club 3 times, performed each time. He's been a servant for the club. Anything he appears on, he's there as a Rangers man. He's never getting the Hall of Fame, and in the second comings, he's never going to sniff at the captaincy. But he's the type of player who probably should be a captain if he had done the unthinkable, obviously. But
Aye. Right, I'll get on to your actual captains now, Stu. I just wanted to roast you. Me and you, the same ones. Me and you, the same guys, right? So,
all right.
I
don't need to rehash the first 2, because I think Dino spoke about those legends very eloquently. I nearly picked the same 3 as Dean, but I thought we're talking about what the kind of standard is as a Rangers captain. And don't get us wrong, he wasn't the captain at the time, because Captain America was holding the seat at the time. But or was he? Can't remember actually now. But Lee Wallace sacrificed maybe a move to bigger and better clubs the way he was playing for Rangers, the way he continued to play for Rangers, albeit in lesser leagues. Basically sacrificed his Scotland career. He was an absolute... He's maybe not the most vocal captains on the park, but he just had this kind of hardy aura about him. Like, don't mess. He's just... them galloping, couldn't stop him runs, pitched in with goals, assists. He spoke well for the club in terms of his captaincy role as well. Obviously, compared to, we're talking about treble winners before, 9-in-a-row teams and stuff like that, he regrettably didn't get to have that as a Rangers captain or a Rangers player. But I think just the overall gesture of him going, I'm staying for the fight, I'm staying for the journey, made him a quality choice for captain, and a captain, and the only captain in MD's eyes at that time. We're talking about, Dino touched on it, about, I don't know if the time where captains are shouting at bowling people, maybe grabbing people, have a look at yourself, what you're doing here. I think him and Kenny Miller are probably players in that age group who maybe the last guys who did that sort of thing, which is how they get hounded out and pure ostracised from the club, like, unjustifiably, in my opinion. The guys were only just obviously it's been well documented in the media over the time, and they've talked about it since. They're just conveying that this isn't Rangers standards. They're doing it in a way, like Dean said, that's maybe not PC, not allowed anymore, not the kind of work ethic. So from that point of view, even that was the way he went out, he obviously gets what it means, the kind of enormity, the gravitas of being a Rangers captain. He also kind of fell victim of that in kind of modern times, which is sad, but definitely deserved to be Rangers captain, and he's a hero for what he did and stayed on, because he could have went on to a higher level. stayed in the Scottish Premiership, maybe went to a Championship club, got more Scotland caps, but no, he picked the badge.
Yep, 100%, mate, 100%. I think for me, in terms of like, obviously the question of pod tonight is what's the ingredients of a Rangers captain. For me, Davy Weir pretty much epitomised everything to be a Ranger. Obviously, the way he left when he was assistant manager is a completely different subject, but the way that guy was on the park, like we are talking about, he was still getting into Barney's at 38, 39 years old, still up for a fight. Like the way he conducted his cell, the way he spoke to the media. And this isn't a dig at James Tavernier at all, but what I'm saying is that we're missing that for this squad just now. The leadership that we've got, and I think folk in the comments would probably agree with us, the leadership currently we've got in the team is not right. I don't think it's been working. 3 trophies in how many years kind of tells you. It puts it into perspective a wee bit for me. No matter who team you've got round about you, I would like to see. I've always liked my captain playing centre midfield so that he can turn his head and get to the folk behind him, and he can shout forward and he can go to his side. Like, whereas all the leadership group in terms of Jack Butland, Connor Goldson, James Tavernier, and John Lundstrom are all in the defensive side of the park. And don't get me wrong, sometimes the Rangers' defence is absolutely excellent. Sometimes it's absolutely terrible. You're never going to get the right balance with it. But I would like to see some Scottish players coming in the summer and really instilling some of that. We need a Barry Ferguson in the middle of the park. We need somebody that's going to harry the midfield and win your second buzz, because that's been missing this season. You need a calm head at the back, whether it's experience, whether it's somebody young, I don't know. And you need somebody up front as well, because we've had no leadership up front and God knows how many years, because Morelos didn't really give you the leadership in terms of shouting and balling at other folk and trying to get service. And I don't even know if Morelos could speak fluent English, and I'm not saying that to be funny, but I genuinely don't think the wee guy could. So to me, it's just a bit like the squad needs gutted, and it starts by getting some Scottish players in that team. Stu, would you think?
I agree, definitely. See in years gone by, we were talking about Barry Ferguson got the captaincy for Amoruso, Ferguson got it back from Rickson and stuff like that, but there was always competition for like who's going to be the next captain, who's going to be the next captain, who's the next captain of your team, or who's fighting to have for that. The only other name I would say is Ryan Jack, but he's not kicked a ball for us hardly. He's not fit. Do you know what I mean? But see when he's fit, he ticks all them boxes. You know, he's a battling Scottish midfielder. He's got a goal in him. Get dig about him, but he's just never fit. So obviously he can't fit the bill. But so apart from a fit Ryan Jack, who else are you going to put in contention for Rangers captain? Because Goldson as well maybe falls into the same kind of category as Tav, where I don't know, they've got a lot of same kind of feelings and things like that, and he's currently been dropped, injured. But I think we do need a kind of core of guys who get what it means, not just to be a club captain, but club captain of Rangers.
I also think we need to go out in the summer, Stu, and well, obviously we're in the summer, but when the transfer window opens, we need to go out and we need to get somebody that's going to bring that old head at the back, so to speak, because I think we need experience in our backline, because I just don't think it's worked, to be brutally honest. Dane, what about you? Have you got any kind of concerns or anything you kind of want to raise about what's just been said?
Yeah, I just think we should. I think I said this the other night. With successful Rangers teams of the past, they've got a strong contingent of Scottish players in it, and I don't think it's any coincidence that we've not been that successful. And as Stu just said, Ryan Jack. Ryan Jack's not even and I mean this in the nicest way possible, but Ryan Jack's not even a strong candidate for me. But he's probably the only sort of other thing you would say, well, Ryan Jack, he's a candidate. But whereas you just said with years gone by, we had strong candidates who were captains and vice captains. Like when Amoruso was captain, Arthur Newman came in, Advocate wanted him to be captain. And he's like, nah, I don't know, should be Amoruso, right? So Arthur Newman right away was as good as a captain as he was. It's going to be as good a captain as he could be as vice captain. So we don't have that. So we need some players that are going to come in and be those players. And I mean, it's a massive job because Clement's not got to identify players that's within our budget and within the realms of possibility of even coming to Rangers. But they've then got to identify people who can come in and take on these leadership roles within the club, captain, vice captain. I mean, and that nine in a row side, right? You've got, I think we had Goff, Bomber, McCall, Coisty, Haitley, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've just rattled off a few, right? There was Alan McLaren in there. There was, there's players like that. You would have been happy with any one of them being a captain of Rangers, So
I think Andy Halliday felt hard done by not getting a shot at the Rangers captaincy, given his mentality of Rangers. He kind of lives and breathes it, gets it, knows it.
Yeah.
The way he displayed himself for the park, played for us. Don't get us wrong, obviously I could see the shot coming his way. I liked Andy Halliday as a player, by the way. Obviously Gerrard trusted him to be a utility player, and he was the first Dujon Sterling. For him looking on and seeing a guy who makes comments, again, we keep coming back to Tav and stuff like that, but also you think about guys who get it, like Barry Ferguson, Andy Halliday's, Rangers captains of the past who came to Scotland and soaked up the kind of ethos and atmosphere and what it was about. Remember the programme with the Hamilton thing? Yeah, I guess when we're under pressure, we just kind of crumble. When have you heard the Rangers captain say that?
Yeah, I can mind reading that. I'm sure it was a Tuesday, Wednesday night. It was absolutely freezing. And I can mind reading it, and I'm thinking that's just absolutely blows my mind. That, but it's funny you should say that about obviously players like Halliday not getting it. I do agree it would have been a good thing for him, and he was the one that made the tackle in the game that we first beat Celtic after years. He made that tackle in the first minute. Ryan Jack nutmegs Scott Brown, which is the first time we beat Celtic in years. So he definitely got it, and the fans changed that day. If he never made that tackle, would we have won? It's all these things that you've got to think about. But when we have leaders in the team of successful Rangers teams of years gone past, all throughout, it's apparent, as you say, we don't have that. And if you remember Dado Purcell, when he came, he took that on, and I've watched videos and people talking about Purcell. He was a leader right away. He was the leader up front. He was the key. You could have gave him the captaincy that season, because he just came in and he was, immersed in what Rangers is. He got that, and you could see that. I mean, again, we played Porto away and banded round his head, and again, just all these wee things and stick in my head for Rangers players that Purcell wasn't the most clinically strikers, but he gave you so much more on the pitch. No, like in terms of clinical strikers, it's other strikers that we've had in years gone by. Purcell wasn't the most clinical, but what he gave you on the park, and he was a leader. We need to be signing players like that. Is basically what I'm trying to say, and that's a big ask.
Stu, I'm going to come to you. So one of my podders, Doug's put a point in, and he said the 9 in a row team was the 9 in a row is a very different era. I don't think you get many captains in that mould anymore, as other players wouldn't respond to that style. Now, see, looking at Fitba just in general now, I maybe think he's got a point. I maybe think a Davy Weir or a Richard Gough would be more suited to football now, because they could adapt than a Barry Ferguson, for example. What's your thoughts?
Well, we did touch on that. I think Dean said it first. Obviously, the kind of style of people don't respond to that, or that's not the done thing anymore. Lee Wallace get chased out of the club for trying to do it once when we get scalped 5-1 off our biggest rivals.
Mm-hmm.
It obviously is not the done thing anymore. Like, we can see that. We're just arguing in years gone past that worked, it had been successful, and was a kind of standard of our Rangers captain. Like, you state the obvious, saying it's not appropriate anymore. Well, we know that. Somebody got chased out of Ibrox for it and almost ruined his football career. So, I mean, we all know that. Like, it's stating the obvious. But we're just saying, just because it's the current doesn't mean that it's maybe correct or the way we should do things. Not everything, not all changes are for the better.
Aye, I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that. Dean, you get in, you want to add?
Yeah, it's pretty much what Niven Stooges said. Aye, but I mean, I think it's all down to the personalities and the personnel of the personnel within the club. If you've got players that are mentally tougher, they'll be able to take constructive criticism. And if you've got players within the club that, don't need to be talked to like that or don't want to be talked to like that, then there's ways and means, but it's finding that balance and finding people who can come in and do the job. So it's that I didn't envy the job that Clement's got in front of him, put it that way.
I mean, I do think, see, for there's players who, see when they're not performing, they're doing something wrong, they won't change, they can't change, but they don't want any kind of harsh or strong feedback or critiques. There is a place for them. It's the transfer list. That's where they belong. Honestly.
I do actually think that we're in danger just now as a club. I think we're getting used to competing for the league and not being the best team in Scotland. I think that if you look at it a wee bit deeper, when we don't kind of like when we never won that cup final last week, the 3 years we were out for it, and none of us kind of looked surprised by how the game kind of unfolded or how it went or the result. It was just like, right, okay, like I don't know. It's an odd thing just now, and I think like going back to the captaincy thing, I think we need to bring players in that are going to push the standards up in the club again. Does that make any sense? Dean, you get in, you want to add to it?
Aye, no, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. But that's a job that Clement and Coppin have in front of them. It's identifying these players, but I don't think they need to go too far to find those players. I believe that you can sign players from our league who can come in. Mine will be the creme de la creme players, but they're going to give you values and standards that's badly needed.
Aye, definitely. Wolfenstein's even come on and he said he's just for context, I think he's a lad's a Hearts fan, but he still comes on and tunes in every night. He doesn't even think the board members are Rangers men or even have a Rangers mentality. So,
and by the way, he's absolutely bang on. And I'm going to say this because I know it's kind of going off the topic, but I want to say this. I'm absolutely delighted that James Bisgrove's away, because anybody that thinks it's a good idea to go to Angie's homecoming should have been, hung, drawn and quartered. I'm obviously talking hypothetically here, guys, but I was just so from that day on, I wanted him out my club, and I'm absolutely delighted that he's away. So yeah, and he's right. No Rangers man would ever have thought that would have been a good idea in the first place.
I think he did do a lot for us in terms of bringing money into the club and opening up revenue streams and obviously expanding our social media platforms and stuff like that. But he's not a Rangers captain either, so what we're talking about.
Good points, Stu.
Just the last point before we finish up, lads. See going into next season, say right, I think minimum two out of 4 of Butland, Goldson, Tav, and Lundstrom are all going to leave. Who would you want to keep and why, Stu?
Sorry, mate, the dog just came in and disturbed me there. So the question was...
The question was that you've got your full leadership. You've got Butland, Tav, Goldson, Lundstrom. Lundstrom's obviously away. All right, to me anyway. Who the other 3 would you get rid of, basically?
In terms of
Butland, Tav, Goldson.
In terms of being leadership figures at the club,
leadership figures in terms of going forward into next season. It's going to be a big rebuild. It's going to be.
You're not talking about getting them off the books. Just guys who are not the kind of captain of the team.
I like get them off the books. What do you want to see changed? Where do you want to see it kind of changed up a bit?
Well, I don't think I want to see Butland off the books, to be honest. I think I'd rather keep him there. I don't think I see Lundstrom staying. I've never really seen him as part of the leaders on the park within the dressing room. Just because he's older and a midfielder and kind of combative, I don't really think that makes him a leader or a voice. But Goldson and Tav, we kind of touched on this. Like, see if anybody who watched the hit or miss videos. I do think both those players have been hits. I think the way I feel bad the way kind of Gold's been viewed now, because I think he has been good for he's put so many performances in. What was the record he got to his appearance number in? Which was I've not got the figures in front of me, but it was something else. And he's covered a lot for Tav when Tav's been kind of galloping forward, doing his thing, goals and assists and things like that. I don't know if I'd want Goldson gone. I think Tav will go. I don't think Tav. I do think Tav's like a hit as a Rangers player. I really do, but I wouldn't want him to continue in the captaincy if he stays, because I was thinking about this earlier on, and I didn't want to Tav bash too much, which is pretty much what we've done in this video, right? But maybe we're talking about different ideas and ethoses and stuff like that, and where Ferguson came from, where somebody else came from, where Tav's come from. When Tav got here, the measure of him being successful at the club was helping the team get promoted from the Scottish Championship. Then his next challenge was to make it from the Championship to the Premiership. And I'm not saying that's all Tav's fault and stuff like that, but the first thing, it's just been kind of failure after failure after failure for Tav. So I don't want to sound like a guy who called him a serial loser, but I think maybe it is time to ring the kind of bells of change, because I think where Tav is and his mindset is, it's probably not best suited to be a Rangers captain. I think being a captain maybe actually makes it worse for him. Maybe he's more pressured because he seems to make a lot of mistakes. You've got Butland coming out and talking to the fans saying we know it's not good enough and we'll do better. And Butland's got a great kind of media image. He's always had media training and stuff like that, and he presents himself well, speaks well, is articulate. I always find Tav struggle with stuff like that, which kind of makes it kind of difficult to endear yourself to as a fan, and him being the captain as well. I don't think he speaks from the same wavelength as fans. I don't think he kind of speaks on behalf of the dressing room at times either. Not to take away from him as a player, but definitely need to replace him as captain if he's staying. Hopefully that won't affect his performances, but we do need somebody to come in who, this is where we are, and this is the bar here.
Aye. Definitely need to agree with that, Stu. Definitely need to agree with that. I think the standard needs raised. I think everything needs to be raised within the club, going from training pitch to match day to anything, the way they conduct themselves off the park with absolute lot. Dean, I'm going to come back to you, right? Me and you have been banging the drum all summer to get Scottish players on board this season, because I think that we go back to that because growing up, that's what we know was successful for us. And I think we've had Scottish leaders, we've had different kind of figures within the club that's withheld the standards. Going to like Lee Wallace, Davy Weir, Richard Gough, we've had players that have maintained the standards now. Put a scenario to you, right? James Tavernier stays next season, doesn't go to Saudi, and he's obviously. How would you feel about Tav staying? And because Clement says we're at the end of a cycle, do you think Tav can stay but not be captain?
I mean, that's hard. The captaincy would have to get stripped from him, because there's no way on earth he can't play with the game. His legs are probably gone, and you want your captain playing as many games as possible. If he's staying, that he's going to have to be micromanaged in terms of the right games to play in, and we didn't. It wouldn't be a right back. There's been a lot of talk of people suggesting him going into midfield, kind of similar to what Rickson did. But again, Tav's legs haven't gone. They have gone, so he would have to. He's not going to be a box to box. He's going to be that. That number 6. Can he be moulded into a number 6? He's obviously got very, very. He's very good with the ball at his feet. In terms of passing, things like that. He's going to be able to play splitting passes. I think he's got that in his locker, and also getting the ball from out in midfield and hitting shots is something that we're starved of. He would definitely do that because he can shoot from anywhere really, and he's phenomenal at it. So that would be possible for me to think that he would be here next season, and we would have to give the captaincy to somebody else.
Aye, definitely. I think I need to agree with you. I think going with Billy's comment in the chat here, he says that there's no chance he leaves. His legs aren't going because he played 58 matches. I think looking towards the end of the season, I think it was quite evident in several matches towards the end of the game, Billy, that towards the end of the season, that Tav was tired, and I think if he stays next season, I think it needs to be more in a bit park role, or he needs to get moved position, maybe into Midley Park. I think we're all kind of agreed unanimously that the ingredients of a Rangers captain for us is that it's a kind of mix between Davy Weir and Barry Ferguson in it. It is somebody that's going to probably lead from front and put in them running players when they need it and rattle a few players when they need it. It's one of them ones, and whether that fits in with modern day football or no, I think it's something that I think is a never-ending argument, to be brutally honest with you. I think even youth players are kind of aren't the same news what they were when we were growing up. So we'll wrap up there.
As Stu said quickly, I'm just going to reiterate quickly what Stu said is Barry Ferguson was in and around the 9 in a row team that had winners all throughout, as we've all just mentioned. So that the young lads that are coming through now, they're not getting to be in that environment so we need to start being in that environment to then have the youngsters coming through in that environment. So then it's just that it's a continual cycle like that, and so again it's got to start from who we sign in the summer. Sorry, I just had to put that point in.
No,
who we didn't speak about? Jig, Lee McCulloch. He was actually a good Rangers captain. But again, he's another lived and breathed that got it. Came for that same part of the country Ferguson did. Played at a good level. Came back to Scotland. You'll maybe bust the purse strings to get him.
Mm-hmm. Aye, totally.
When he got it.
100%, mate. 100%. And this is why 3 years ago kind of come in and says tonight, that's why we need to go back to what we know is successful, and that's buying in Scottish players or players for the league. You cherry pick the best for the league, but we seem to be going down a different route just now, so we'll just need to wait and see how the summer unfolds. But we'll wrap up there, boys. Cheers for coming on, mate.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Dean, thanks for coming on, pal.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure and privilege as always, mate.
No bother, boys. Right, that's we will wrap up there, and we'll be back tomorrow night at 7:30. Not got a clue what we're going to speak about yet, but find something to speak about. Remember, every night's Rangers Journal night. Cheers.